Hello, YouTube. This is the Film Watcher, and you haven't seen me in a while because I haven't put out a video in like 2 weeks. But you know, I was eager to get back to it. I've been catching up on some watching stuff, film watching stuff specifically. But you know, I've been a little busy, but I am eager to get back to it, doing one of the things that I do best, criticizing something that really should be better than it is in an extremely disorganized manner. The Mandalorian Season 3. I was excited for this season. I was, because even though the Book of Boba Fett, which had kind of the same, that had the same writers to it, it was not very good. Even with that, the two episodes of The Mandalorian that were in that series were actually very good. And they felt like classic Mando stuff. So, well, I don't know, maybe the writers weren't that interested in Boba Fett, because, I don't know, Disney was like, ooh, popular character, money. I imagine that's how Disney execs act, but anyway. So, maybe they weren't interested in writing Boba Fett. They clearly were still interested in writing The Mandalorian, based on those two episodes, that is. So, when we got to this season, I was excited because it was like, oh, it's the Mandalorian. It's back. It's like the only good Star Wars TV show that we of the four we've gotten in the past like 3 years, in my opinion. I know a lot of people liked Andor. I did not, but whatever. So, the Mandalorian season 3. It it did what so many other Star Wars live action seasons of television in the past year or so have done, and it disappointed me greatly. It was, I'll give it this, it's not the worst Disney Star Wars project. It's not even the worst Disney Star Wars project that was put out by this creative team. But it still wasn't good. And like there were some good things in it, but there was just so much crap and nonsense that should have been so good had they just made tiny little tweaks to it. Maybe not tiny little tweaks, but tweaks nonetheless. And then it would have been so much better. And they squandered it all and did everything in like the most boring way possible. So let's talk about some details here. So we left off with the Mandalorian in Book of Boba Fett, where he had removed his helmet, and he has since been rejected by the Mandalorian society. They've declared him no longer a Mandalorian. Okay, that's, I mean, that might have happened based on the events of season 2, but you know, I think that's a solid journey for his character to take. Like, he has to retake the oath that he lived his entire life by prior to meeting Grogu, and like that's an interesting journey. Like this guy who lives by this creed now has to reclaim his honor that of and like the principles that he's lived by, and like even the way they explain it, it sounds so it sounds cool, sort of. Like, he has to go to his home planet of Mandalore. Maybe not his home planet. The planet of his people, where he's never been, and bathe in the living waters, thus to reclaim his honor. They linger on that storyline for 2 episodes, resolving it in the second. And they do it in the most anticlimactic way imaginable, because it's this interesting journey. They kind of set it up, and then he does a couple other things in episode 1. He goes to visit Grief Karga and what have you. Then he goes to Mandalore. In episode 2, he gets attacked and defeated almost instantly. He gets saved by Bo-Katan. And then he goes and he walks into the water slowly. He's just standing there. Okay, all good. Then he like falls over or something. I thought he got pulled under the ground or under the water. He didn't really. He just kind of fell over. and then Bo-Katan went after him, and she became a Mandalorian herself. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a second. But the way they use the Mandalorian in this season is so weird. Like he's he's weak. He's like he does nothing. I mean, it's into like the last two episodes he does something, and I will talk about that. But if you watch him in like the first two seasons, even the back end of this season, and the Book of Boba Fett, he is a freaking badass. He is like this incredible physical specimen who is like an amazing fighter, and he just somehow loses all of that in this like in like the first six episodes of this season. That is dumb. It doesn't make any sense because like in the Book of Boba Fett, they've done this like twice now. In the Book of Boba Fett, Boba Fett's another character who feels like they kind of nerfed his abilities a little bit, and in order to focus on a couple other cool characters who have like extremely high levels of fighting capabilities. And here, I feel like that's what they do with the Mandalorian. In Book of Boba Fett, they wanted to show off Fennec and Mando. In this season, they want to show off Bo-Katan and sometimes Grogu, but sometimes not, and sometimes the other Mandalorians. But okay, you can have cool side characters who do cool stuff, but that doesn't mean you have to remove all the capabilities of the main characters. That just doesn't make sense. And then Mando for the next like four episodes has nothing to do. I mean, he hangs out with Grogu. He helps Bo-Katan, kind of. I don't know, what does he do? What does he do? He does nothing. He has so little. He doesn't have much of a presence. There's hardly anything like anchoring him to the story. And then like I get that they wanted to focus on other characters, and that's fine, but that doesn't mean you can just make the lead character, who was actually really compelling, just totally uninteresting and dull. So, speaking of which, yeah, so they kind of push Mando and Grogu aside a little bit so they can focus on Bo-Katan. That's kind of cool. Bo-Katan, she was trying to reclaim Mandalore and she was unsuccessful. Oh, that actually sounds kind of interesting. This is like, it's like a failure for her. No. Bo-Katan is so boring. Everything she said sounds like she's reading from a textbook. I don't know if it's her writing or if it's her acting, and like, no offense to Katie Sackhoff, I know she voiced the character in Clone Wars, and I'm sure that's really, really cool for her, but she's just so dull and lifeless. There's like so little personality to her. She says everything in like the most stock, generic way possible, like the it's like she's giving a history lesson. There's a lot of conflict in her that they really could have gone into, and they just don't until kind of like the last two episodes, where somehow she just kind of becomes interesting. But because they didn't do any work before that, it's like, okay, so I kind of all of a sudden care about her because the show is good again, but then like it's just there's nothing before that. So you have a little investment in the very end of the season, but at the beginning it's just like when I was watching episode 2, I was thinking, why does everything anyone says sounds like I'm sitting in history class? I'm taking a history class. It's a lot more interesting than anything that these two are saying. Yeah, I don't like it. And then there's the storyline with the Darksaber, which I honestly forgot about because they don't do anything with it until episode 6. Anyway, so at the end of season 2, there's like Bo is very serious about like she's like visibly furious. She cannot take the Darksaber. It has to be won in battle. So she has to fight. she's gonna have to fight Mando at some point. Yeah, no brainer. That would only make sense. This is a person who's very devoted to, like, her cause, reclaiming Mandalore. And Mando's like, I want to help, and I want to just give it to her, but I can't because she's not letting me because she wants to live by this code. I respect that. I also live by a code. That makes sense. Gee whiz. And then. So, in episode 2, Bo-Katan shows up with Grogu to save Mando, who gets arrested by this tiny little spider dude who lives in a couple of different robots. And then she saves him again. And, well, she beats that thing. He takes a bath. She saves him again. She sees the mythosaur. It never comes back. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, so, yeah, that happens. 4 episodes go by, yeah, and then we get to the end of episode 6, which already I was very annoyed because it's by far the worst episode of this season. We'll talk about that later too. Yeah, we get to that point, the end of episode 6, and it's like, okay, so she defeated this axe guy. Now she's the leader of her clan. Fine. And then we get the dumbest reveal in, like, anything? Because all of a sudden, Mando comes out with this, like, he walks forward and he's like, no, she should have the Darksaber because, she defeated a creature that defeated me. Yeah. No. Are you kidding me? They had this opportunity to have this big climactic duel between these two friends and allies after they've been working together for, like, a long time, maybe the whole season at that point. And then he just shows up with this piece of information that he really should have revealed a lot earlier, and that she just has it now. So now they can retake Mandalore. Okay, but why? Why would you do it like that? That's such an anticlimactic, lame way to do a storyline. Man. And he waits 4 episodes to do this. They're together for a lot of that time, and she's trying to win the respect of his Mandalorian clan. And, they're fighting pirates. They're trying to save droids. They're arresting Christopher Lloyd. Lots of different things are going on. And for whatever reason, he chooses now to tell her, like, a piece of information that could change her life? Like, this could be the most important thing she's ever heard. She's one of his closest allies, and he knows this. Because, like, he knows how important this was to her. It's all she talked about in season 2. And he's just like, I just remembered, you technically get the Darksaber on a technicality, through a loophole. Because that's the way these Mandalorian people do things, through loopholes. They're not serious about their creeds or anything. They don't care. What's the big deal? This was dumb. And then there's Grogu, who, I'm not gonna lie, yeah, he's cute. He's funny. I like watching him. I think the puppetry effects are very good, and he gets a lot of cute moments in this season, as he has in the past 2, and Book of Boba Fett. But he doesn't fit in this season. Like, he doesn't have anything to do. Like, the whole of seasons 1 and 2 was about people trying to kidnap him, and about him trying to go to where he belongs, like the Jedi Temple. That is what he was meant to do. They make that clear. And then in Book of Boba Fett, they just undo it because the writers were like, oh, wait a second, we removed, like, a main reason why a lot of people watch this show to begin with? The cute source of merchandise? The moneymaker galore? Egads, what are we to do? So, yeah, they just brought him back. Now he's training to be a Mandalorian foundling, which, does he even want to do that? Did they ever establish that as a goal for him or Mando? And like it's nice when he officially adopts him at the end. Like that's a good scene. And like I like that. I like the ending with the two of them. But I feel like him training with Luke and, building up his strength as a Jedi makes a heck of a lot more sense than him just kind of sitting around hopping all over rocks with Din Djarin. I don't know. He doesn't seem to have much of a place here. So this season as a whole, it introduced a lot of really, really cool ideas for a story, and it doesn't do anything or does really boring and uninteresting things with all of them. Like Mando reclaiming his honor and getting back his status as Mandalorian. Yeah, that's over in 2 episodes, and he looks dumb while doing it. Bo and the Darksaber. Again, it's technically resolved in episode 2, but they wait 4 episodes to reveal that piece of information because, was anyone gonna guess, oh, in episode 2, wait a second, she just defeated something that defeated Mando. That means that she gets the Darksaber. If you guessed that, congratulations. And then there's the Mythosaur. They talk. I think they talk about it a little bit in episode 2, and then you get this scene as Bo is swimming in these dark, murky waters, like holding the armored, heavy Mandalorian and dragging him to the surface, and it's a rather tense and actually pretty well done scene, and then freaking out of nowhere, you see this thing that kind of looks like a rock formation at first, and then you see this eye just open. And that freaked me out, man. That's like a fear of mine, to be underwater in a large open area and just have an eye open, like right there. Yeah, that sounds freaky, but the way they do it here is good. Like, it's well done. And then, they kind of talk about it a little bit in the next few episodes, and Bo confesses her vision, or not her actual sighting to the armorer, and she's like, oh, she walks both worlds, which means she can take her helmet off whenever she wants. Okay. Fine. And then, episode 7, they go to Mandalore, and there's a giant thing that pops out of the ground and starts eating people. And it's like, oh, wait, there's other giant creatures here too? Okay, this is actually kind of cool. Maybe the Mythosaur is going to play a big role in that final episode. We saw Moff Gideon. How cool would it have been if they were fighting near the mines of Mandalore, near the living waters, and hearing the disturbances of the battle with the Beskar stormtrooper people and Moff Gideon, blowing up stuff. What if the Mythosaur, in this moment where he was about to obliterate a ton of Mandalorians, the Mythosaur just pops out of the ground, takes a bite out of whatever cliff Moff Gideon is standing on, just swallows it whole. How cool would that have been? And they just don't do it. Why? What? They set up this mythological beast, a dinosaur, essentially, that dwells in the depths of the location of the final battle. And they have it appear for 2 seconds in a tiny little cameo in the last 5 minutes of the episode, where the camera goes under the water, and then it goes right up to the Mythosaur, and it's like, hi, I'm the Mythosaur. I was also in this season. What are you people doing? If they do a season 4, which I know they are, this thing better play into it in some capacity, or I'm going to be really disappointed. I already am really disappointed. What were they doing? Who thought it was a good idea to set up this really cool giant creature? Star Wars they have giant creatures all the way back to Empire Strikes Back. You have that giant worm thing that the Millennium Falcon is inside of. Then they have to go out of it. And it's like, okay, you think it's just this big dark tunnel thing. And then you see teeth closing in on them. And it's like, oh, they were inside a being this whole time. And then they come out of it. Then the worm just pops out of the planet. And it's just like, ah. You know what I'm talking about. This is like that. But they don't do it. It's just sitting there, dormant, inside the planet. Why? Yeah, and then the discovery of Mandalore in and of itself is underwhelming. Like they make it sound like it was really hard to reclaim it, and Bo's like so distraught. She's like sitting in her chair like this when Grogu finds her, and she's like, "Yeah, it didn't go well. We had to give it up." And it's like, I know with the end of the season, the last 2 episodes they revealed, yeah, there were people there. They did have to fight people, and it was difficult. But they don't tell us that until episode 7. Why? If it like I feel like Bo would have been a little bit easier to empathize with in some capacity if they just, revealed that yeah, she had to fight Moff Gideon and his army of Beskar clad troopers. Yeah, that sounds like it'd be difficult. But Boat says it's like it was so difficult to reclaim this planet. The first time they go there in episode 2, it's completely uninhabited. There's nobody there. It's like there's a couple creatures that live under the surface. There's the Mythosaur, who clearly doesn't do anything. But they never give any indication that there's any enemy to face until episode 7, 5 episodes later. How does that make any sense? Oh, yeah, and then another thing. Moff Gideon, they set up in episode 5, at the end of episode 5, which was a really good episode, by the way. They say he was broken out by Mandalorians. They discover this as Carson Teva is looking through the vessel that was carrying him. Yeah, they don't do anything with that, I don't think. I might have missed something. That's entirely possible. I'm not the brightest tool in the barnyard. I don't know, but I'm sorry. So I might have missed something, but I feel they from what I saw, and I was watching pretty closely, they don't really ever go back to that, which kind of bothered me. Because that seems like a pretty important point if Moff Gideon was broken out by Mandalorians, and then they just don't do anything with it. And then I actually thought it was going to be the guys in episode 6, like they introduced at the beginning, Axe Woves in them, but then they end up helping Bo reclaim Mandalore, so that doesn't really make sense. I don't know. And then Moff Gideon is an antagonist. I don't like saying this about characters that Giancarlo Esposito plays, because he's really good at everything. Moff Gideon is just kind of okay. I don't know, like he's a perfectly decent, average, evil antagonist. He's kind of like if Grand Moff Tarkin was the main villain of the entire original trilogy. Like I think he's really cool as like an antagonist one time. I don't know why he needed to be the main villain or heck the final boss of all 3 seasons, and they might bring him back. I don't know. They said they were cloning him, but then they blew all of them up, which was a little weird. I don't get what the point of him even having clones if they were just going to destroy all of them in the first place. I don't know. So yeah, he was fine. And then there's some other issues here that just kind of exist. Episode 3, it was weird. It was like a strange side plot with Dr. Pershing from the first season, and I guess the second too, but it was just, it was there, and like, it's episode 3, so I assumed it was going to go somewhere. It didn't. Yeah, there's discussion of the New Republic, and that people in the New Republic kind of show up later in the season, but it doesn't really tie to this specific storyline where Pershing gets manipulated at all. I don't understand what the point of this episode was. Maybe it's leading to something later. There were a couple times where I thought they were hinting at something to do with the First Order, and like that would have been cool, you know. I guess that kind of improves the sequels. Kind of. It makes them seem like, you know, they're like now there is kind of setup for them when there really wasn't in anything else, but whatever. It was just a weird side storyline that really went nowhere or hasn't gone anywhere so far, I guess. I don't know. And then there was episode 6, man. It was like, so it starts out and then we go to Mando and Bo on the new plot of land that the Mandalorians have on Grief Karga's planet. And that, okay, that's kind of cool. And then they go somewhere else to like this other planet, the name of which I don't remember because I don't really care. And they walk into this big, fancy looking room, and I see this man sitting there at the end of the hallway, and I'm like, well, it's probably gonna be like, I don't know, a minor celebrity perhaps. The Mandalorian's good about getting like, maybe not huge names, but like, I don't know, like smaller celebrities in there, like Ming-Na Wen and Bill Burr, and yeah, I think that's pretty cool. And then it's Jack Black, who, suffice it to say, is not really a minor celebrity. He's Jack Black. He's been in movies for like, I don't know, 20, 25 years, and he's great. I don't know what he's doing here. He plays a character named Captain Bombardier, which is so dumb. And this is like right around the time that the Super Mario movie is coming out, and it's like, okay, he's in. Jack Black joins 2 major franchises now, I guess. Star Wars and Mario. Fine. Have explained him to sing Peaches. That's a really good song, by the way. So Jack Black's there, Lizzo's there. I didn't recognize Lizzo because I don't really listen to any of her music. I don't know. She's there. Then like the next scene, there's Christopher Lloyd. What is Christopher Lloyd doing here? What are any of these people doing here? What's this story doing here? It's about droids malfunctioning and like, stuff from, I guess, the prequels with like the super battle droids, and that's fine, but it's just a totally pointless side quest that has nothing to do with anything. And like, I know the show does like side quest stuff sometimes, but usually not right before the final 2 episodes. And then in that episode, they revealed a really dumb piece of information that should have been revealed a lot earlier about Bo and the Darksaber, but you're... And then there's one more thing that I had a slight issue with that I wanted to discuss, and then I'll get to some good stuff. Every time the Mandalorian appears in his ship to do anything, they play the Mando whistle from the main theme. That's a bad whistle. Yeah, that thing. And if you know what I'm talking about, I don't know. It's like a... Anyway, they play it a lot, like too much. And I get like it's his thing, and you want to show it when he appears, and they used to do really good in the last 2 episodes. But you multiple times within a scene when he just shows up to shoot something, that's kind of dumb. Anyway, let's talk about good things in this season. I liked the last 2 episodes, like, a lot more than the rest of the season. They weren't great, because the rest of the season did nothing to set them up, really, or very little. The action was really cool. The CG, honestly, across the board throughout the season, was excuse me, significantly better than a lot of other Disney Plus content as of like, Pardon me. Uh, yeah, and then like in those last two episodes, for whatever reason, I just started to find Bo's quest to reclaim Mandalore like compelling because, as I said, they made it clear that they were actually going up against something. Because before it was like, so they're going to reclaim Mandalore against from who? Who has Mandalore? We don't know. And then by episode 7, it's like, oh, it's Moff Gideon. Of course it's Moff Gideon. That makes sense. Why didn't they tell us that 5 episodes ago? But anyway. And then in these last few episodes, the Mandalorian is physically capable again and actually does some really decent damage on a lot of these guys. And he is fighting good. And there's some cool action. And it's good stuff. You know, there's some cool like Star Warsy type moments that, I mean, yeah, felt like they were trying to be Star Warsy, but they were cool nonetheless. There was like Paz Vizsla's sacrifice in episode 7, Moff Gideon's death by a ship crashing into him. That was cool. You know, Mando being good at things again, and Grogu using the Force. That was pretty cool. I think his use of IG-11 or IG-12 was actually, I think that was cool. I enjoyed that. And another thing I liked was the pirate storyline. That when it wrapped up in episode 5, I was like, well, wait a second, that's another thing that this show just kind of wrapped up too quickly. But not really, because they had like these pirates are not a huge threat compared to like Moff Gideon and his Beskar soldiers. So, you know, I liked the pirate stuff. It was neat. They set it up, and it came back in episode 5. And I think Gorian Shard was a really fun villain who was kind of like Jabba the Hutt mixed with Davy Jones, sort of. Really, he was just Davy Jones, but whatever. He was cool, and I like the actor that voices him. And the Mandalorian tribe was sometimes cool. I mean, sometimes they used a talking pillow. Sorry, wrench. Yeah, there's one scene where they're like there's like a single person communicating to the entire group, and sometimes they switch people talking, and whoever's talking is like holding a wrench sort of thing or a tool of some kind, and whoever's talking, when they're done talking, gives it to whoever's talking next. They use a talking pillow. Mandalorians use a talking pillow. Breaking Bad. Such a better show than this one. And Stinky Pete was in this show. I'm tired of meh Star Wars stuff. I'm sick of it. This season, I just rant about it for a half hour. And, like, it was not good. It was a mess. It was a catastrophe, one might say. And there was some good stuff in there. But that does not distract from the fact that so much of it was so dumb on so many levels. Book of Boba Fett, outright bad, aside from the 2 episodes of The Mandalorian, which shouldn't have even been there. Like, they should have replaced episodes, I don't know, 3 and 6 of this season with those 2 episodes from Book of Boba Fett and just made that one, like, I don't know, instead, maybe they just keep that 7 episodes and use the 2 Mando episodes to actually tell that story. But that's a topic for a video I made last year about the Book of Boba Fett. Obi-Wan. I enjoyed it, but it was flawed. Very flawed. Andor. I thought it was boring. I didn't get into it. I didn't care about anything that was going on. I don't like Andor himself. I get why a lot of people got into it. I just didn't. So I think Ahsoka looks good, but I'm skeptical because, you know, it's like it feels like it's just kind of borrowing from like nostalgia and stuff, you know, for Clone Wars and Rebels and stuff like that, and the Heir to the Empire books. I haven't seen or read any of that stuff. I just started Clone Wars. I'm gonna get to it because it looks really, really good stuff. And I want to like that show. But this season, man, I don't know what they've been doing the past like 2 years, but it's just been so bizarre on so many levels, and it's just it's not good. I think this is easily the worst season of this show, and I'm even honestly, even if we are counting Book of Boba Fett, I think that might be a better season of The Mandalorian than this one is. At least The Mandalorian gets to do some cool stuff for more than a quarter of those of the runtime that he's there. He was there for like 3 episodes of Book of Boba Fett, and he was a lot cooler than he was in this. I'm annoyed at Star Wars right now, and I want them to win me back. But they're going to have to do a lot better than what they've been doing for the past year. So, those are my thoughts on The Mandalorian Season 3. Please comment your own down below if you have anything you'd like to share. I don't know. Thank you for watching and listening to my inane ramblings as always, and keep calm and watch on.